employers are being forced to flip a coin and choose between retaining or sacking workers because of the failures in a Tory scheme to save jobs, Labour has claimed. The opposition said the design of the government's new job support scheme means it is more cost-effective for businesses, where workers reduce to sack half their staff. It came as a report warned that 1 in 3 working-age households in red wall constituencies are set to lose over £1,000 if the temporary boost to universal credit, UC, and tax credits expire next April. Labour said its study suggested that, under the job scheme, employing 2 bar or restaurant managers part-time would cost £2,647 a month, made up of wage costs, employers' national insurance and employer contributions to non-working hours. But it would cost less than £2,000 a month to bring back 1 member of staff full-time, working more hours than 2 members of staff combined under the scheme, it said. The scheme gives firms, where workers reduced an incentive, to sack 1 member of staff for every 2 on the books, unless they want to pay almost £700 extra a month, the party claimed. Shadow Business Secretary Ed Miliband said, the government presents the job support scheme as a measure that will save jobs, but the facts tell a different story. Struggling employers where workers reduced have zero incentive to keep staff on, with it still being significantly cheaper to sack 1 out of every 2 members of staff. Businesses won't want to do this, but the government is stacking the odds, so it makes financial sense for them to do so. They're essentially having to flip a coin to decide which person to lay off. But those who rely on the support from universal credit may also struggle. The Resolution Foundation said there were striking similarities between cuts planned by Chancellor Rishi Sunak and those George Osborne planned to introduce exactly 5 years ago, when he was in the post. Benefit cuts will affect 6 million families, compared to 3.3 million in 2015, said the think tank. A third of working-age households across the red wall regions are set to have their incomes cut by £1,000, compared to 1 in 4 in the southeast, said the report. Torsten Bell, chief executive of the Resolution Foundation, said, the £20 a week boost to universal credit and tax credit this year has been a living standards lifeline for millions of families during the pandemic. But allowing the policy to expire next year would be disaster, not just for household incomes, but for economic policy too, as the Chancellor seeks to secure a recovery next year. Close quote. Jonathan Reynolds MP, Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, said, it's unbelievable that the government is considering cutting universal credit in the middle of a jobs crisis, in which they themselves admit 4 million jobs could be lost. Families in the North, Midlands and Wales would be hit hard by this cut. We cannot risk condemning parts of the UK back to the dark days of Thatcher, with mass unemployment and families struggling to get by. Changes to UC and tax credits, a government spokesman said, we've invested an extra £9 billion in our welfare system to help those most in need through the pandemic, including by increasing universal credit and working tax credit by up to £20 a week, as well as introducing income protection schemes, mortgage holidays and additional support for renters. A Treasury spokesperson said, this makes sense on a spreadsheet, but is economically illiterate in the real world. For employers, the value in the scheme is the flexibility to change working patterns by the week, and the value they get from retaining their skilled and experienced workforce. They also save the very considerable cost that come from staff turnover. That's why this scheme was advocated by business and why they welcomed it last week. Close quote.